No, it doesn't have OpenGate. Ends video. Sony just announced a near flagship level camera at under $3,000, the long-awaited Sony A7 Mark V, and it's got me asking questions like, should I be trading my Sony A1 Mark II for it? Is it the best hybrid camera under $3,000? And is it worth the upgrade from the A7 Mark IV? Those are all the questions that I'm out to answer, and rest assured this video will be really fast. I'll only give you the information that you really need because it's 5 degrees here in Yellowstone, and we'll be quick, I promise. But welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Matt Zeffi. I'm an outdoor adventure photographer. Perhaps you know me from some of B&H's videos. I worked there for 5 years, and now I am driving across the United States and living in my camper, photographing wildlife and landscape, and today we are in Yellowstone. The A7 Mark V is exciting for a ton of reasons. Let's start with some of the highlighted specs right off the cuff. We got a new partially stacked sensor that's 33 megapixels. What does that mean? Less rolling shutter because we got a faster readout speed. So if you're photographing sports or wildlife or any fast-moving subjects or even video, this is really going to come in handy. They've also increased the burst rate up to 30 frames per second on the electronic shutter, 10 frames per second on the mechanical, which is the same as the A7 Mark IV. And then on the video side, we've got 4K 120 cropped, but finally we're getting it. And there's a whole lot more to talk about with this camera, but let's start with really the body first. It's got a very similar body to the Sony A7R5. We're finally getting a flip up and flip out screen, which is the most coveted Sony screen. Everybody loves it. It's my favorite thing, and I'm using it right now, actually. We still got dual card slots, CFA and SD, except one of the slots is only SD, like the A7 Mark IV. To me, if they're using the A7R5 body or similar, they should have just made both CFA and SD. That's just my opinion. They've also implemented 2 USB-C ports in place of that multi-interface port that they used to have. And this is supposed to be, I think, for using on gimbals and whatnot. It's really important to know the difference between the ports though, because one is specifically for power delivery and one is for data delivery. And you could use them for both, but one is significantly slower on each of those. Like one is better at the other, if that makes sense. Also notable that it doesn't have a C5 button like the A9 III has, and also the A1 II. Okay, so jumping into the photo specs, we've got a new processor entirely for this camera. That's the Bion X XR2, Bion Z XR2. There is a brand new processor and AI processing unit so that you get all those AI processing powers that the A7R5 has, A1 II, A9 III. That's really exciting because you get better subject recognition, autofocus is better performing in general, and overall it just improves the capabilities of the camera. And then of course that new partially stacked sensor. Everybody was kind of wondering, is there going to be a new sensor on the A7 Mark V? And it's really awesome to see that they actually implemented this. And a partially stacked sensor means that we get a faster readout speed and less rolling shutter. 33 megapixels, so they kept the megapixels the same, and in my opinion, I think 33 is kind of the sweet spot, so I'm okay with it. They also improved the in-body image stabilization from the A7 Mark IV. It used to be 5.5 stops, now it's 7.5 stops at the center of the frame. And then when it comes to the burst photo mode, the fact that you can shoot up to 30 frames per second on the electronic shutter and use the camera totally electronic and not even use the mechanical shutter, don't put any wear on the camera at all, is a huge improvement. That's 3 times the amount of photos per second than the A7 Mark IV. And to me, this makes it a really good camera for wildlife, sports photography, and any fast-moving photography in general. It's also really important to know, while there are some other cameras out there in the market that lower the bit rate when you're shooting at that high burst mode, this camera you can still shoot at 30 frames per second and it's 14-bit raw images. So that's really important. I wouldn't want to lower the bits in my photos just to get higher burst photos. And then in that same line of thinking, they've also implemented pre-capture into the A7 Mark V. What does that mean? When you're holding down the shutter button, it'll actually start taking photos before you fully press the button. So you hold it there, and then if you're focusing on an animal or something, right when it makes that move, you fully press the shutter and it'll save all of the photos before you even fully press the shutter. You can adjust this, unlike other cameras as well, from 0.3 seconds up to 1 second before ever fully pressing the shutter. They've also implemented speed boost, which I guess was taken from the A9 III and the A1 Mark II, whereas you would use this on the C5 button on the center here, but you can assign it to any other custom button on the A7 Mark V. And what that does is so that you can use a lower burst photo mode. You can essentially use a lower frame rate, and then when you click the button, it'll adjust to a higher frame rate when the action really hits. All right, so let's talk about the video specs, because this is an impressive video camera as well. And finally, we are getting 4K 120. It is cropped. and then we're getting 4K 60 uncropped. I can't say full frame because that might suggest open gate, which this camera doesn't have. All of this in 10-bit 422, and it also has full HD 240 frames per second if you want that real slow motion. With the AI processing unit, it's also got the subject detection and its ability to track motion in the image and also in between, behind subjects, things like that. You know Sony's autofocus is just unparalleled, and I also love the fact that the subject detection allows you to throw it in auto mode, and the camera will automatically detect what exactly is in frame, what's the subject that you're trying to focus on, which is really nice, and that's also pulled from the A7 II as well. So you don't have to specify to the camera what the subject that you're trying to focus on is, unless you want to, and you just put it in auto mode and it'll automatically try and figure it out for you. Speaking of the AI shenanigans, they've also put in that little cropping mode that some of the other cameras have where you can kind of put down the camera and then it'll automatically frame around you. Not for me, in my opinion, but I could see it being useful to some people. All right, so now that we've talked about the photo video specs, the sensor, let's talk about some of my concerns. And starting with number one, we all want open gate. Let's just be honest. It's not like it's a deal breaker in any way, but everybody's asking for it. We kind of want Sony to deliver on open gate, and I understand that maybe it's generally overhyped, but I like the possibility of it being there. If I've got a full frame sensor, I want the option to turn that on at any time. So I don't think it's a deal breaker by any means, but clearly the competition is implementing it, so I think it would be worth it. Should have just did CFA, SD on both of them and not just SD on the second one. Number three is I think that they implemented some composite imaging, but if you're gonna go into this space, I feel like you might as well like revolutionize it. Like I'm not saying maybe full OM system mode or Olympus or anything like that, but more so, why not just give the option to make it happen in camera? It's probably requires a lot of processing, I imagine, but at the same time, it's like if you're gonna implement it and try and make it revolutionary, that would be the way to do it. Instead, you have to use Sony's proprietary software. All right, so will I be trading my A7 II here for the Sony A7 Mark V? The answer is, we'll have to wait and see. I really need to test them in the field and put them head to head. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a video putting the two head to head. I understand that they're completely different tax brackets, but at the same time, I'm really wondering, like, you know, the Sony A7 V delivers on so much that the A7 II delivers on as well. I understand it's a partially stacked sensor versus fully stacked, but it's half the price, and 33 megapixels is still fantastic. So further in-field research will need to be done comparing the two, but I will say I'm probably like 70% there in considering switching. All right, so is this the best camera under $3,000? And it depends if you're a photo first shooter or a video shooter. If you're a photo first shooter, then I think it is actually. I'm a big Sony fan. Obviously, I think you could tell that. I love their autofocus system, and I love the images that it produces. And I love the video as well, but I think that the Sony A7 Mark V is probably the best camera under $3,000, or at least one of the best cameras, and certainly worth it in that sense. It's a different story when it comes to video. You look at a lot of the competition, the Nikon ZR that literally just came out, and I understand it's a different camera and different market entirely, but all the RAW capabilities that delivers on, like 6K 60 and Red RAW, and also the Canon R6 III with 7K 60 RAW. What? It's clear that the Sony A7 Mark V is not the best video camera that you can get under $3,000, but I still think it is a fantastic option for hybrid shooters, portrait, landscape, wildlife, and just about any form of photography, if I'm being perfectly honest. Perhaps not so much for beginners because of the pricing, but I do think it's a great option under $3,000. So then it comes to the question, is it worth the upgrade from the A7 Mark IV? The A7 IV is a fantastic camera. The A7 III is a fantastic camera. However, I do think it's worth the upgrade to the A7 V, and here's why. The new partially stacked sensor is going to make a bigger difference than you would think. A partially stacked sensor, that could mean lower dynamic range. This will need to be tested in the field more, but Sony is claiming 16 stops of dynamic range. The burst photo modes at 30 frames per second also makes it a huge upgrade that I think is worth it for wildlife and sports. If you're looking for the highest resolution camera, Sony has other cameras that are better, like the Sony A7R line. If you're looking for something that's better in low light, then the A7S line is better for you as well. But if you're looking for that middle ground sweet spot, then I think the A7 V does the job. But all that to say, I think that I will be picking up an A7 V in the very near future. And if you decide to do the same, I'm gonna leave a link in the description down below. It is an affiliate link, so it does help the channel, and I'll be directly to the A7 V and some of the other gear that I use as well. So definitely check that out. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this camera? Is it worth the upgrade? Is it worth trading the A1 II for? And is it better than some of the competition from Canon, Nikon, and the like? Let me know down in the comments. Now, the light is getting really nice right now. I'm gonna see if I can find some wolves here in Yellowstone to photograph, and I'll see you guys out there on the road.